Welcome to Beyond the Velvet Rope with Neil Oates Jr., the podcast that takes you on an extraordinary journey into the world of luxury service. Join us as we unlock the secrets, stories, and strategies behind exceptional experiences. From anticipating VIP needs to crafting unforgettable memories, we'll guide you on a path to service excellence in the realm of the affluent. Let's elevate your expertise and redefine the art of world-renowned service. Here's your host, Neil Oates Jr.
Welcome to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Our guest today is Brett Culp, an award-winning documentary filmmaker, keynote speaker, and social entrepreneur known for his uplifting films and powerful message of hope and leadership. Through his work and nonprofit, the Rising Heroes Project, Brett creates films like Legends of the Night and Look to the Sky that inspire people to see the hero within themselves. His unique approach turns storytelling into community movements, empowering audiences to lead with courage, empathy, and purpose. Mr. Brett Culp, welcome Beyond the Velvet Rope, sir. How are you today?
I'm wonderfully well. Thanks for inviting me to be here, Neil.
Man, Brett, we are going to have some fun today, and I do believe that we're going to add value to the audience. I shared a little bit about you in the intro, but could you tell us something that maybe I did not share about Brett that you think would benefit our audience?
You know, I am a lover of people. I just love people, and it's funny to say that because there are times I think all of us when we scroll through our social media these days and we kind of wonder to ourselves, do I still like people? Like maybe the people are the problem. But I have not wavered one bit on my love of people, on my belief in the goodness of people, and on the belief that together we are still headed to good places. And I love the opportunities that I have to meet new people and make new friends, just as you and I did over the summer.
Yes, sir.
Connect, and that led us here. So my love for you has led us to this moment.
All right, Brett, so let's just jump right in because we're not two that are going to shy away from things, but we also want to make sure that we find opportunities and the benefit of. You mentioned that many people will look at people as the problem, and that is not how you go through life. It's not how you handle business. You see a light in everyone. Where does that come from?
Man, that's a beautiful question. I mean, I believe at the core of who we are made in the image of God. We are children of a divine presence, which essentially means that's the essence of our being. That is our identity. Now, I do think that some of us get caught up in fearful mindsets. We get caught up in ideas about ourselves as being alone and separate. We get caught in survival mode. We get caught thinking that we have to fight each other and battle each other to get our needs met and to keep our little group safe. But I think when we are able to let go of those illusions, surrender into the truth of who we are, then I think something magical happens. I think it transforms the way we see not just ourselves, but the way we see the world, the way we see other people. And so, I'm at the point now where every experience that I have with someone, I either see it as an expression of love or as a cry for love. Either that person is in touch with the truth of who they are and they're expressing it to me through love, or they've lost themselves for a bit and they're crying out for love in what they're doing right now. Either way, I can choose to show up as the presence of love with them and create a beautiful experience together. Now, whether they can receive it is up to them, but I'm going to do my part.
So Brett, so you're saying you're going to do your part, and we mentioned some things that you've done in just professionally, filmmaker, keynote speaker. How challenging or easy is it for you as someone who has done work, like major work, where it has not necessarily been about you, but you have been in the position that is acclaimed? Right. So for you to be that person and then to still be met with people who don't know how to express their cry for love or don't receive the love that you give, how do you handle that on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so first of all, I'll just establish this. So in this beautiful human life that I've been given, I've had the opportunity to create inspiring documentary films that have been on Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime. And as you said, and I've had the opportunity to be a keynote speaker. I speak at probably 30 to 40 conferences all over the world every year as either the opening or closing keynote speaker. I'm not an industry expert. I speak to all kinds of groups, but that's how you and I met, which was so beautiful. And, there is a level in which I understand that doing that work as a filmmaker, as a speaker, that's how I'm known in the world. Like, that's how I appear to you. And you appear to me as a guy who does what you professionally do. And I see your pictures on social media, and I see your family, and I hear your story. And there's a level in which these are the ways we know each other. These are the personas we take on. But at a deeper level, there is always something holy moving underneath all of that. There is a life and an energy that moves through all of those stories underneath them. And so, as I've done this work as both a filmmaker and as a speaker, I get to travel all over the world, meet all kinds of people, go through all kinds of cultures, all industries, all backgrounds, all ages. I mean, all kinds of people that I have met. And I love the diversity of what I see. Each one of us is a special flower, each one unique and each one beautiful. And yet it doesn't change the fact that we are all growing in this beautiful field of flowers. We are all part of this nature, this beautiful story that is unfolding, that we are at once immersed in, and that is also bigger than us, beyond us. And I think as we start to, at least for me, as I have started to lock more in my mindset into that truth, into that reality of what I am, then I see that you and I, as we sit here today, and anyone else that's listening or watching right now, we are all just flowers in the same field, blooming together, reaching for the sun, being nourished by we're all on the same journey. We're all equal. No one is ahead. No one is behind. We are all beloved. And so in that way, if that is the truth, even if you don't see that truth, I'm going to choose to see it. And I'm just going to love you right where you are as the beautiful flower you are at this moment.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you can't tell by the way Brett speaks, he is not like the average person. And I always say average is a 4-letter word, right? But I have been accused of a thing, and I'm going to accuse you of being the same thing. It's called toxic positivity, right? So there is a level of you being a filmmaker. You look at realities of life, right? You look at realities of different cultures and situations and circumstances. I want to ask you, when was there a shift from maybe when you started in your field, in your industry, from doing the necessary work, some commission work, maybe some commercial work, to then moving to purpose-driven work? Because there's a very big difference in filmmakers who are doing things that they're good at and people who are doing things that they were meant to do. And so when I hear you, when I see you, and we're going to talk about some of the new ventures that you're doing, I see a man who is doing what he was meant to do. So how did you start, and was there a progression or a shift to get you to where you are today?
That's a beautiful question. I think for me, I would love to take credit and say that I, as an individual person, sculpted all this out, plotted it. And the truth is that that's not the case. I have done my best over the years to be open to what is moving through me at any given moment. And what I have found is that when I sit in silence and I listen, like really listen, and I ask the question, what is God calling me to do in this moment? What am I called to? What am I made for? What is this moment asking of me? And then I sit without ego and without fear, without pride, and let the answer to that question flow through me. And I accept whatever that answer is. Then I always turn out to choose to put myself exactly where I'm supposed to be. I feel like the times I haven't been where I was supposed to be were the times when I forced it.
Right.
Were the times when something in my ego, something in my mind thought, man, it sure will be great if I could do this, if I could accomplish this, if I could, earn this. I bet everyone would love me. I bet the world would bow before me. I bet this would earn me a lot of money. I bet this would open up, this would build my reputation in extraordinary ways. Every time I do that, every time I follow that voice, which is really a voice of fear, it's a voice of survival, it's a voice of separation, a sense that I'm by myself and I have to create my life, that I am the maker, I am the doer of my life. Every time I do that, it's like I jump out of a plane with no parachute. And I fall for a little while and it's like, woohoo! And then I crash onto the ground and it's disastrous. And my wife has to pick up all the pieces of my broken emotional psyche for a year. But every time I pause and I really listen and I flow, I never get the whole vision all at once. It's always just, what's the next step? And then what's the next step? And then what's the next step? And now I go after that with a lot of, it's this mix of flow and activation. Because on one level, I am flowing like water, which kind of has this beautiful feminine energy to it. Like I'm flowing and drifting and responding. But then there's this masculine activation energy to it as well that I'm also balancing, which is once I flow and the calling is clear, now I'm going to go after it. Now we're going to move towards it. And when I say masculine, feminine, I'm not talking about whether you're male or female. We all have access to that kind of energy in us. I think we're all a great balance of that. And so that's where it is for me. It's like, okay, I'm going to surrender. But once I feel the spirit move and the calling become clear, now we're going. Now we're moving. And now it's like, people can say what they want, do what they want. I'm like those, in the Blues Brothers, like I'm on a mission from God. Like, you know what I mean? Like this is, and so that's the thing that happens that's so powerful is once that gets clear, now the world can respond how they want. Your mother-in-law can say whatever she wants. The bank account can look however it wants. The world you can post your first thing on social media and get 0 views. That's fine. You weren't doing it for the views. You weren't doing it for the money. You weren't doing it for the validation of your mother-in-law. You're doing this from a higher place. And that ends up becoming an anchor that allows you to not only have the grounding, but the energy to keep moving forward, even when you feel the resistance, even when your nervous system starts to respond with fear or there's a trigger that comes up. You can move through that because you know that this calling is attached to something that's bigger than you as Brett Culp or Neil Oates Jr. or whatever your name is. You're a beautiful flower, but this calling is part of the bigger field of nature you're involved in. That's more important than just this little individual speck in the ground you are.
So how do we as people go from being so focused on ourselves or the moment or the bank account or the likes, whatever it is, to really grabbing hold of that bigger picture that we're supposed to be a part of? How have you seen, because I know leadership is a big part of who you are and what you talk about, how do we maybe lead ourselves to coming from that place of fear to moving forward and coming into that field of other beautiful flowers?
Yeah, and I feel like in many ways, for a lot of us, we want that answer to come externally. Like we want the world to give us that answer.
I want Brett
right?
to tell me so I don't have to do the work, right?
That's it. If I just had a mentor, if I just had a guru, if I just read a right book, if I took the right online course, if I was part of the right community, or if I believed the right doctrines, or, go down the list of things that we perceive are out here in the world that will ultimately provide the grounding we need. For me, the process, and it's been a long process over many years with many wrong turns, but it's coming back to trusting yourself, trusting your own intuition, trusting that the yeses and nos that come up in your deeper self or your higher self, depending on how you want to think about it, that these are guidance that you can trust. Now, I want to be careful in saying I'm not talking about morality here. I'm not talking about, there are things that are external to us that inform how we interact with people, how we define what loving behavior is, all that kind of stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. Or the relationship, the vows we make in relationship. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the way we choose our path forward. Because you could talk to a million gurus, have 1,000 coaches, plug everything into Chat GPT about what you should do next. And the truth is, none of them know what you should do next. Not a one. They know what they would do next if they were in your situation. But that's all they can tell you. All they can tell you, here's what I would do if I were you. But you are you. You're the only you that's you. And so this beautiful life that you have been given, taking it one step at a time and trusting that if you're living in a grounded place of love and you're choosing the next step from that place and saying, look, my desire is to be authentic and true to myself, to honor my values, and to be a blessing to the world. It's amazing how often when you really are clear and grounded in that, how often, even if you're confused for a little while, if you'll truly ground yourself in that, how often the answer will appear. And most often our confusion is from fear of what if I make a mistake? What if I can't trust my own intuition? What if I'm wrong? And here's the sad news, friends. You're going to be wrong sometimes. But here's the thing that's amazing is even the moments where you seem like you were wrong, it always works out. Like even the blunders, even the mistakes, the world is for you. It's not against you. Life is for you. It's not against you. And so I've stopped defining the things that I used to define as mistakes and saying, oh, I made this mistake. Now I can't trust myself. Look, trust the process. Trust, even if you take a wrong turn, this was exactly the way this was supposed to work out for you. The lesson you learned, you're going to look back 10 years from now and say, wow, I sure am glad I did that because now I'm here. But that requires faith to see life. It's almost like the capacity to see the rearview mirror before you even get there. Like it's the ability, in many ways, hope and faith are the ability to live in the future and to know that it already turned out good for you. Like I can see the rearview mirror even though I haven't passed it yet. And the people I know who are the most powerful, who are the most activated, who accomplish the most and do the most are the ones who don't overthink, who don't operate from fear or shame. They're the ones that would rather ask forgiveness than permission a lot of the time in their life. And you'll see them later be like, you know what? I was wrong. I'm sorry. Next, let's move on. Let's not wallow in the shame of this. Let's not wallow in the fear. Let's pick up the pieces as quick as we can and move forward to the next thing. Now, I'm not saying to not be smart and not be strategic, but I am saying that a lot of us sit around and talk about our dreams much more than we live our dreams.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it just takes the boldness to step up and punch the button, post the post, make the phone call, send the email, get on the plane, make the trip, say yes to the thing you've been saying no to. Sometimes it's as simple as that.
Man, so Brett, I absolutely love that. And ladies and gentlemen, I am going to take this moment here while we're having this conversation with Mr. Brett Culp. All of his contact information, everything that he's doing is going to be in the show notes or the description. So make sure you follow all things Brett, because I'm going to get to one of those things here in the moment that I'm excited about that I've been following. But before we get there, you are a filmmaker. You film make, not that's who you are, right? But you are a filmmaker by trade. You are a storyteller. But I'm here, and even as I hear you speak, you've mentioned a word a few times, and that is listen. So this is not in your bio anywhere, but you are a listener as well, right? And so how important is it to someone who speaks, who directs, who's creating and giving direction to others? You mentioned listen to yourself. Make sure you listen to your environment, the feedback loop, listen to your future or higher self talk to you. How important is listening how important is listening in living or borrowing from the future, right? Living the life of tomorrow, not being worried about the mistakes today. Because when I hear you speak and the storytelling that you do, I'm like, oh, I could tell by the way he speaks that he's listened a lot more than he talked.
Yes, I appreciate you saying that. I have cultivated a nature of being a very curious creature. And so I have cultivated that over many years. And I am very curious about people, about why they're doing what they're doing.
Whatever it is that they're doing, you just get curious instead of
Yes,
frustrated,
I
right?
am. I am. I don't critique it. I don't judge it. Now, sometimes I do. Let's be real. I'm a human being. I'm at the airport and I'll see somebody do something and I'm like, what? Why are you doing that right now? Like, I want to go over and rescue them. But I've realized that my instinct to want to rescue people is just my own disease I'm judging myself. Like,
Right.
I just need to leave them be. But I think that curiosity is the cure for narcissism. You know, we see so much of that. We tend to get so self-absorbed, so caught up in our own stories, and so by our very nature wanting to only be with people who see events the same way we do, who tell the story the same way we do. We could be looking at the same event, but it makes us uncomfortable to sit with people who see that event differently. We're much more at ease with people who see it the same way we do. I love to talk to people that don't see it the same way I do, who see it totally differently, because I'm like, expand me here. Like, clearly I'm too narrow because I believe that there's good in you. I believe there's good in all people. And there's a reason why you're seeing things the way you're seeing them that has a perfectly good, true, values driven reason underneath it. So explain this to me. Like, just tell me. And I'm not here to argue. I'm not here to debate. I'm here to learn and understand. And I don't think I've ever had an experience with someone where I was genuinely curious that didn't expand me in some way, that didn't put me more in touch with the immensity of my own self and clarify, expand my sense of perception. And I think that when we do that, we find that a lot of that when we really are open to people in that way, innocence replaces suspicion. And we find that we are more alike than we are different.
Mm-hmm.
That we care about the same things, we want the same things. Now, there's a variety of reasons why we've come to different conclusions about what would lead to those outcomes for ourselves, for our families, for our community, whatever it is. But I rarely meet people that are truly malicious villains.
Right.
Like, that truly don't care about other people, that only want what they want. Now, the problem is they get caught up in fearful mindsets that drive them to these self-absorbed, narcissistic thought patterns. But the way we let it go is curiosity, is belief that there is another story here that I just don't know it yet. And for me, as a documentary filmmaker, it's funny, people ask me a lot, like, well, how do you do interviews? Like, what is the secret to interviews? And I'm always like, well, look, I only have like 30 minutes with a person usually. And with my films, they're very inspirational. So I'm trying to get to the emotional heart of this. So I'll say, like, okay, well, tell me the story about what we're talking about here. And I'll let them tell the story. And then I'll say something like, wow, man, that was something. I mean, tell me how that made you feel. Like, how did you feel when you were going through that? And they'll talk a little bit more. And then I'll say, man, wow, that's deep. That's heavy, or that's whatever. I mean, so tell me more about how you experienced that.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially all I'm doing is just going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper until we finally get to that heart level, that soul level, where they're like, well, and then you get like down to the core feeling, the core sensation, the core experience somebody went through. And so usually when I'm with somebody and, like, let's say they're outside of filmmaking, when I'm with somebody and they get upset or they're reactive emotionally, usually I saw a great post from my friend Mark Silverman, who's a corporate coach, executive coach. And he said that whenever you're with somebody and they become emotionally reactive, like if you put it on a scale of 1 to 10, if they're beyond a 5 in their emotional reactivity, know this for certain, it's not about you. It's always about what's moving in them. The mistake you make as a leader is you see somebody really react as a 6 or a 7, and you take it personally because they're projecting it on you as if it's about you. But if somebody's at that level, it's never about you, brother. Never. It's always about what's going on in them. So the curiosity is to say what's going on in you that's causing you to react this way, that's driving this reaction. And sometimes you can ease that reaction by maneuvering things in the world that create a little more ease for them. You can get them a more comfortable chair to sit in. You can, get them a cup of water. You can bring them into a room that's better temperature for them, and that will ease it. But a lot of times as leaders, what we have to do is get real curious about what's underneath that reaction and say, okay, what's really driving this? And in some ways, you kind of have to move into therapist mode. I often say that about my work. I'm part filmmaker, part therapist, because by the end, if we're not crying, then I haven't succeeded. Like, by the end of the interview, by the end of the, we're going deep here. And that's the opportunity. I mean, that's where the healing really happens in the world, is when we get curious about what's going on beneath the surface with people that's driving them to do what they do. And again, back to what we said a little while ago, it's almost always either an expression of love or a cry for love, one or the other, both of which, if they're open to it, I can offer.
Man, I absolutely love that. Now, Brett, I'm going to just let people know why you're back in front of me. You have, I'm not going to say started a new passion project, but you've gone even deeper, I believe, in who you are. And you are on every one of my timelines. I don't matter which social media platform. So kudos on the consistency, right? And the familiarity. But tell me about the radiant return, right? This is something that you have, I see it, and you're saying follow the new film series that you have going on all the social, but you are sitting here just talking and sharing, and like it's almost one-on-one when I'm sitting there opening up my social and I get to have a conversation, even though you're the one speaking. I'm talking back to you because I'm hearing some of the things that I say, and I'm answering some of the questions that you pose. So what is the radiant return, and why is now the time for something like this?
So I'll go deep on this answer, Neil, because that's the best answer I can give you, is to be very real. About 3 years ago, I had, what people call the midlife crisis, the dark night of the soul, where I went through an experience that just kind of broke me. Like, it broke meaning for me. It broke my sense of identity, who I thought I was, what I thought many ideas were about in my mind. And it's hard to explain what that means if you have not yet been through it. But if you're lucky enough, at some point you will go through it.
Wait, stop right there. So you say if you're lucky enough, just break that down, because we're sitting here like Brett just said, this thing broke him. It broke his belief, broke his idea of what he thought. And now he's saying if we're fortunate, we get to go through this thing. Why do you look at that as a blessing or an opportunity to go through the breaking of who you are? But before you even continue, I just want the audience to make sure they grab that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, what I discovered in that journey is that all of us, well, I'll just speak for myself. I was operating under some thought patterns, some assumptions, and some ways of seeing things that I had picked up when I was very young, and they had served me well for most of my life. They had allowed me to accomplish a lot of things, build a good marriage, be a good dad, have a great career. But what's amazing is that most of these ideas and concepts that we pick up in childhood are way too limiting and way too small to take us to the transcendent, limitless places that God invites us to as we mature in life. And so the invitation of a breaking, you can either fall on the ground and say everything is ruined and life is terrible, or you can say this is an invitation to more. This is a container being broken because the liquid within it is too expansive to hold it anymore, and it must move into a larger container. In fact, the truth is that what happened to me, and the way I see it now, is I spent most of my life in this beautiful vase, like putting my life energy into this beautiful vase, and it was lovely. But this breaking happened and I expanded so much that the only place I could live was the ocean. Like now it's like I've gone, the beautiful vase was great, but man, wouldn't you rather be in the ocean? Like this expansive, limitless, deep, wide. You can travel the world if you're in the ocean. And so that's the way I see it now. And so what I had to do was essentially deconstruct the way I was seeing myself, the way I was seeing life, that had allowed certain circumstances to feel so overwhelming and destructive for me. And in doing that, I returned to the truth of who I was, to the truth of what the presence of God is, what life is all about, and what my journey was really all about anyway. And it was painful. It was challenging. It was unraveling sometimes. There were days when I laid on the floor and cried and begged God to just fix it. And ultimately he did, but it wasn't a presence that came and rescued me from my suffering. It was a renewal of me. It was a renewal of my mind. It was a return to my heart. And what I started to realize as I moved through that process was that so much of my suffering wasn't about what was going on out here in the world. That's the way I had seen it for so long. I had an experience, it brought up pain, it brought up fear. And my first reaction was to say, well, look what you did. You did this and it caused me to feel this way. Or I would blame, something that a client did, or an outcome of something the world did, or something that happened in politics or culture. And I would be reactive and I would say, this was bad. You were bad. You're the villain. And now I'm the victim of your terrible decisions. Now, I'm still at the point where I do believe there's good and bad, right and wrong. There is loving behavior and there is hurtful, hateful behavior. I'm not saying that doesn't exist. It does.
Mm-hmm.
But what I have found is that the journey to remain peaceful as I work to bring love into the darkness, to bring light into fearful situations, to bring justice into places where there was injustice, the peace that is required to be able to do that as a leader in the world, you're never going to get it out in the world. It only comes from within. Jesus said you will become a spring that comes up, that wells up within you into eternal life. And there's so many scriptures about the kingdom of heaven being within, and about the Spirit of God moving within us, creating transformation. And I was looking for redemption out in the world, thinking at some point I'd be at peace, I'd find joy, I'd find happiness when everybody else got their act together. And I'll tell you, Neil, I've been disappointed for a long time. That day never came. It just never came. And what happened to me 3 years ago was finally I had to get to the point where I hit rock bottom with all that and said, I'm going to have to return to the light that is within me, that I can never be separated from, that this world can never steal from me. I'm going to have to put my treasure in heaven, where nothing can corrupt, where nothing can be stolen, where nothing can be destroyed. And that's not just for later, for when you die. That's here. That's now. That's this moment and the decision that I make and that you make right now. Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. What I have found in that journey now is that the journey of awakening and healing for me has always and only been a journey back to myself. And that for me has been the radiant return. And so a couple of months ago, I decided it's time for me to start getting louder about this.
Love it.
And so I started posting just a little while ago, not that long ago. I started posting these videos that are going to be weekly. They're short. They're 6 to 8 minutes long. And each video is an invitation to return to your heart, to rediscover the source of the light that is always yours, the truth that is always true. And it's not out in the world. It comes as a spring of holy, sacred water coming up from within the heart, within the place that can never be touched by the world. And so these videos have stories in them, they have insights, they have challenges, but ultimately, as I said, they are all invitations to return to who you are and to who you've always been. And what I've found is that when we return to that place, that everything seems to soften about the way we perceive other people.
Mm-hmm.
We find ourselves less aggressive, less disturbed, less upset. And even with the things that do deserve our attention and that need transformation, we don't come to those things with fear or with hatred or with a sense of shame or criticism or judgment. We come gently, we come lovingly. And that's the only way real change happens anyway, as we interact with each other. I don't think we're ever really going to shame each other into lasting change. I think we can only love each other into it.
So Brett, first of all, fantastic answer. And thank you for opening up, not here today, but just through the Radiant Return. Now, as a storyteller, here's what I noticed, that you don't just tell stories for entertainment. You are not doing something just to get a like, a clap, some accolades. As a storyteller, you are really moving people, encouraging towards action. Even with the Radiant Return, it is, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to tell this story, but at the end, there's an invitation. There's going to be a challenge. There's something for you to do. You mentioned about the flow, but then you talked about that activation part, doing something with executing. What are you seeing? And I know that you get to have a lot of conversation. You meet lots of people from every area of life, every walk of life. What are you seeing is the challenge from hearing a story, getting information, reading books, and then activating, turning on, doing something with what we have learned? Because that's never your goal. You never want someone to say, man, I like that story that he told. You're here igniting communities, encouraging movements to do something with what they've learned. But what are some obstacles or challenges that you've experienced or that you've seen others to keep them from activating what they know they could or should do?
You know, I feel like the answer to that. There's one primary answer, and it is personal responsibility. You know, I love, I have so many people that will come up to me after a speech or will send me a message about a video, and they'll say something to me like, "That was an amazing speech. I wish my wife had been here to see that." And I'm always
Wrong
like,
answer.
it's exactly right. That's exactly right. The implication in that is that this is so valuable, what you shared, so powerful. If only everybody out there would do it, then boy, would life be great. And there's a reason why this is so hard, because to really go deep into this, we have to be willing to see the stuff in ourselves we don't want to see. And I love that idea that, and I believe it's true, that your growth is only limited by how much difficult truth you can see and embrace about yourself. That's it. That's it. Every time you feel stuck, every time you feel like you don't know what to do next, I feel like nearly 99.9% of the time, the problem is actually that you are in avoidance of seeing and taking responsibility for what you need to see so that you can make the hard decision you need to make to move on to what's next for you. And I mean, I don't say that with any accusation, because I have no doubt that I'm sitting here right now with you, and I'm going to get off this call, and something's going to come up in my mind, and I am going to be like, man, I wish this was different. And something in my mind is going to project that problem out on the world. And I say, well, it just can't be that way, because what's her name won't do what she needs to do. So because of that, it just can't be real. That can't happen. I've gotten to the point where I'm like, you know what? Anything that has anything to do with somebody else, I don't want to put my attention on it. I don't want to put my energy on it. I want to come back to me. All I can do is cultivate my garden. Wake up every morning and cultivate my garden. Take care of my own self. come back to my own presence and take responsibility for my own choices. And so what I would say is, if you feel stuck in your life, and again, the fingers point back at me too. I'm saying this to me too, because I'll listen back to this interview. Brett, I'm talking to you right now. Listen, buddy, I'm talking to you. Wherever you feel stuck right now, whatever you feel like you are struggling to push through, the mind will want to project responsibility onto other people and make you the victim of that situation. And listen, it may be totally true that that other person is disempowering you, holding you back. They've stolen your money. They've said all these mean things to you. They've told lies behind your back. All of that may be completely true and honest. But you still have a choice to make. You can't choose for them. You can only choose for you. And the answer is, how are you going to respond? What do you have control and choice over right here, right now? And that may be letting everything burn to the ground and starting over. Or it may be having the hard conversation you don't want to have. Or it may be being authentic and really embracing the truth of what you want to do next that nobody in your life wants you to do. Everybody else says it's the wrong decision, but you know intuitively it's you. Maybe it's time to stop avoiding that and take responsibility for what God is calling you to next. You know, put on your britches and get out there, man. And sometimes that's what's required. You can't control anybody else or anything else, but you can choose your response, and that's where your power is.
So we're going to have people listening to us right now, Brett, and they're going to say, "Well, yeah, sure, Brett, you're talking because you've already made it through, right? You're coming from the point of experience." What do we say to someone who is saying, "I have this mission or this purpose, but I've like, man, I've been met with challenge. I've been met with hurdle. I've been met with opposition." And you just mentioned many times it's going to come from those that are closest to us. One of my coaches tell me it's the foot that's closest to you that kicks you the hardest, right?
Oh man, it's so
So,
true.
so how do we get through those points? Where do we find momentum? Where do we find the drive to continue on? Because you talk about we have to cultivate our own garden. The challenge is that we can't take care of our garden today and then leave it for a year, right? We've got to continue doing this thing. We have to stay energized. So what are some things that you would say to that person who knows that thing in their heart? Maybe they have done that radiant return and they're looking back and they're going back inside, but now they're saying, there's a lot of work here to be done. I can get started, but do I have the strength? Do I have the energy to finish? What do you say to him or her today?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things I would say to that. First of all, it starts with the belief, and this is hard to hold in the dark moments, and I understand this, and I say this with complete grace. But the truth is, life has always been for you, not against you.
Right.
Every setback you've ever experienced, it has been for your good. It has served you. Even if you can't yet see how it's served you, it has. And so sometimes it's about trusting the process that's unfolding and knowing that even if it's not exactly the way you planned it out, know that you're not smarter than life. You're not smarter than God. You're not. You're not. The universe is smarter than you. You may be this beautiful flower in the field, but you cannot see the whole forest. You do not see how you fit into it. You can trust one way or the other that whatever is happening is meant to align you as the unique, special, beautiful person you are. There have been so many times when in my mind I have insisted that things needed to go a certain way. And in the end, and they didn't. They didn't, they didn't, they didn't, they didn't. And then I can look back years later and say, why was I pushing on that? That was so misaligned for me. The people I was with, the situation. I mean, why was I was so devoted to this? I was so attached to this idea, this place, this role, this vision. And I look back now and I'm like, that wasn't a calling from God. That was me in my own mind. And all of those setbacks were life telling, okay, loosen your grip, surrender a little bit, and flow. The calling is still yours, but this alignment may not be right. So I love that the idea, the way I hold it in my heart is that my intentions, my values, my callings are in concrete, like they are in the pavement. But my specific plans, they're in the sand. They're movable, changeable, flowing. And that's where I think some of us get stuck, is that we lock into a specific set of plans. So I would say, let your plans flow, but let your intention be solid and activated. And so the setbacks that you've experienced may just be God, the universe, life realigning you and saying your vision is too small. You're not around the right people yet for this mission. You're trying to do it in the wrong place, in the wrong setting. This may be your exact calling, but you may need to quit this group and you may need to move to a whole different city. You may need to move to another country to live this out. See, that's where it comes back to the fear. It's like, okay, I got the calling, but I want to live it out my way, the way that feels comfortable and safe for me. God never works that way. When he calls you to the thing, he's also going to break you of every limitation you had about how that thing had to unfold. That's the growth process. But I would also say that in that process, you are being refined.
Yeah.
And so often what I have found is that it's the people that stick with things with tenacity and keep telling that story, that at some point they find a partner, an opportunity opens up for them, and they find out years later when they say, hey, thank you for finally saying yes. Thank you for doing this. And they're like, listen, when I said yes, I had no idea what you were talking about. It didn't make any sense to me. But you just would not give up. You were so determined that I was just like, well, okay, if she's that determined, then this must be something that needs to be empowered. I'll say yes. And that's what Jesus said that about, if you knock on the door over and over again, eventually
It's going to open.
It's going to open. That's the way the universe works. It doesn't have to be divine intervention. That's just the nature of this life we live in.
Right.
And those that are persistent, those that are bold eventually win.
Man, Brett, that has been my experience as well. And so thank you for sharing that. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you go to the show notes or the description to get all of Brett's contact info to see where you can follow more of Mr. Brett Culp. Before we have fun, you mentioned something and it jogged my memory. You're talking about having some things in concrete and others in sand. One of my friends told me almost, I would say about 15 years ago, he said, write your principles in pen, your plans in pencil, and give God the eraser. Right. And
so good.
And I was like, wait, I can't just write it in pen and pencil. He says, no, the key is you have to give God the eraser. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know about that part. Okay. So Brett, in the interest of time, ladies and gentlemen, here's what we're going to do. I want you all to follow Brett, watch his work, see everything he's doing. He is a transformational figure, and the work that he's done, it's not about him. It really is about serving others and bringing the light out of them, helping them see the light in themselves so the world can be a brighter place. But before I let you go, Brett, I want to do this thing where we have some fun, where we learn a little bit more about Brett Culp. Are you open to that, sir?
Let's go.
Okay, so I love the excitement. Once again, I told you toxic positivity, right? Now, my legal team, who does not really exist, told me to tell you that you are not legally obligated to answer any of these questions that I'm going to ask you. Okay.
Okay.
I want to make sure I want to make sure. So here we go. Favorite color?
Blue.
Why?
Batman.
Wait, okay. So when you say blue Batman, educate us, because some of my audience, they're like, blue and Batman, they don't get it. Which Batman are you talking about?
The Batman I grew up with was always blue. Blue and gray with some yellow. And so I love that color. I love Batman. I love the iconography of Batman. Now they've made him black, in all the movies, and that looks cooler for the movies. I get it. But in the comic books, in the cartoons, his cape, his cowl, his boots, blue.
No question. You did not hesitate, and I love the fact that when you said blue and Batman, I knew exactly what you were talking about. Maybe we aged ourselves just a bit, right? People are like, man, I think Brett, he's a great storyteller, but he's colorblind. He has no idea that Batman. And so for those of you who have no idea what Brett is talking about, you're going to go in and do your research, we know. Okay, so, well, you mentioned Batman. Is he your favorite? Because one of my questions is Batman or Superman. Is that not even a question that I have to ask now?
So, I've made two documentary films that were about superheroes. One was about Batman and one
Right?
was about Superman. I love them both. But I will say that Batman is my favorite because Batman, even though Superman is about hope and about who we aspire to be and who we in our heart, Superman represents the truth of the heart, the truth of the soul, the limitless, the power of the depth of our being. But Batman represents the human experience
Mm.
of trying to work through the suffering, the pain, the discouragements, the disappointment, while still holding space for what could be and for the truth of our being within it and our divine nature within it. And so to me, Batman is the talisman because Batman's the guy I come back to when I'm in the hole and I'm like, look, if Batman can do it, I can do it.
WWBD, what would Batman do? I absolutely love it, man. So here we go. Favorite food?
Probably pizza.
Like any kind of pizza? Is it like
Yeah. When I think about, I love so many foods, but pizza is like a comfort food to me. Like if I'm going to have a birthday party and I'm going to invite a bunch of people over, we're probably going to order pizza. Like
really?
I think that's just it's a fun, happy community sharing. I mean, who doesn't love pizza? I mean, I love that. There's a meme that says, you can't please everyone. You're not pizza. And I think pizza is just kind of a fun communal, let's order a pizza and all share it. Like I just like the energy of that.
And so I guess pizza is the toxic positivity food, right? It's just something that, hey, you put a pizza in front of people, they're going to do a little dance, they're going to be happy, they're going to figure
That's
out
it.
how to put their toppings on. Or if they don't like something, they'll take it off. It's customizable. All right, now this one is the one really where if you don't want to answer, do not answer this because I don't want us addressing the Mr. Renowned, world renowned Brett Culp in the wrong way. A nickname that only your family calls you.
That's a good question. I don't think I have one. My wife calls me sweetie.
Okay. Well, okay, ladies and gentlemen, if we see Brett Culp around, do not call him sweetie. Just hey, let's take that off the table
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah, she calls me sweetie and sweetheart, but that's really it. I mean, there's a lot of people that joke that I have a lot of Mr. Rogers kind of energy. And so I do have some friends that, when I'll get on kind of a roll, they're like, "All right, Mr. Rogers, settle down." But besides that, no, everybody calls me Brett or Dad.
Brett or
My kids
Dad?
call me
Come on.
Dad.
Hey, I mean that's a good title, sir. Sweetie is a good one. Dad is a good one, and I know that you're handling those roles very well. What is one talent that you don't have that you wish you did?
Man. I mean, I would say overall I wish I was a better athlete.
Really?
I struggled my whole life to, I have found ways to be fit and be in shape, but there's not a single sport on this planet that I am any good at. And I'll tell you, Neil, it's not for lack of trying. I mean, I tried. I tried soccer, I tried basketball, I tried wrestling, I tried volleyball, I tried karate, I tried all these things and I would give it a go for a while. I mean, I remember when I took golf in college and at the end of the semester, the golf instructor said, "I'm going to give you an A because you've given it so much passion, but please do not golf anymore. Just stop. This is it." Like if I were to grade you on actual talent as a golfer after 3 months of consistent effort, like you're going to get an F. And I wish I was a better athlete, like better coordination, better, all that. I can't even really play video games very well because I don't have good hand-eye coordination for video games. Like I always die. And my kids are like, "Dad, you died again." And I'm like, "I know, I'm just not good at this. I'll watch you."
Man, so our condolences. So we will not be inviting
Thank
you
you.
to any of the fun activities, games. If you do, you know what? You can document the event. That's what we can have you do. We can have you to
That's
come in
it.
and
I'll
document.
cheer real loud, Neil. I'm a good cheerleader. I'll be very positive, but you don't want me on your team. As positive as I am, I'm like, we're gonna get the next point, but we will not get the next point if it's up to me.
Good stuff. What is your favorite book?
The Bible is my favorite book, but my second favorite book, which is similar unto it, is a book called The Way of Mastery, which is a book that I was given several years ago. And if you are ready to dive into the depths of spiritual transformation, mystical, deep spiritual transformation, much of it from a Christian perspective, this book, The Way of Mastery, will challenge you. It will change you. It's hard to find. It's a hard to find book, actually. But if you search for The Way of Mastery, you will find it. When you're ready to go deep, this book is waiting for you.
I love it. Now, this is one where I get to ask this question, but I've never asked this to a filmmaker. What is the one movie that if you're sitting down flipping through the channels and it's on, you're going to stop and watch a piece of it every time?
I mean, I have several movies like that. I'm just trying to think about which one I want to share with you.
Okay, there we go. I about to say.
Well, you want a list? You want a list?
You can give them to us. We'll take the list.
Okay. Batman v Superman. I love that movie. I absolutely love it. We could have a whole discussion about why I'm one of the few people on this planet that love that movie. I made a video about that movie that went viral on YouTube where I cried in the middle of the video. Like, that movie is like holy ground to me, that movie. Our mothers have the same name. Like, this is transcendent stuff to me. That movie, and then I think probably my guilty pleasure movie, I'll mention this one too, since it's Halloween season, at least right now it is for me, is Bram Stoker's Dracula, which came out in the 90s. I'm a romantic, like, if you know the Enneagram personality types, I'm a 4, which is the romantic, which is the deep in the heart. This is like the most romantic vampire movie in the history of movies. This is everything an Enneagram type 4 could want in a movie, with vampires and love and passion and everything else. So that movie, like, is my guilty pleasure movie. I'll be watching it soon.
Oh, man. Okay. I absolutely love it. What is the best piece of advice that Brett has ever received?
Man. So I'll go at this a little bit of a different way. There was a time probably 15 years ago when I was at a pivotal moment in my life. I was making a big choice that was going to affect the trajectory of my life forever. And I sat down with my dad to talk about it. My dad has been a trusted advisor in my world for a long time. He's 75 years old now, I guess, 75, 76, and is still sharp and great advisor in my world. I love him a lot. And, you know, he weighed out the pros and cons of the choices. And then he said, but whatever you choose. But whatever you choose, I'm with you all the way. And if you're wrong, then we're wrong together. And that wasn't a piece of advice, but that mentality changed me forever. It changed the way I parented my children, particularly through adolescence, when they started to become their own person and make their own choices. It has affected the kind of friend I have been in communities and when I seek to help and empower other leaders. It's the kind of husband that I strive to be in that closest of partnership, which is when it's time for someone to make a decision, I trust them to make their own decision, to trust their own intuition, to trust the Spirit of God working through them. And then I'm not going to later say, I told you so. If you're wrong, then we're wrong together.
Absolutely.
I'm with you all the way, whatever choice you make. And to me, that's love. We got a lot of relationships in our life, even our closest ones, that have these unspoken conditions on them. A sense of conditionalness that they may not even say it, but you know deep in your heart, if I make this call to be true to myself, then I'm on my own.
Right.
This person's essentially going to either physically, mentally, or emotionally abandon me if I make this decision. Like, it's almost like a moral stance, like they're obligated to abandon me and make their stand that they're right and I'm wrong and I cannot stand with you in this. I refuse to do that. It's not love. I've never unfollowed a person on social media or unfriended a person because I disagreed with their political views, spiritual views. You know, if I love a person, it doesn't mean I agree with them.
Right.
But whichever one of us is wrong, whichever one of us turns out to be wrong, whichever one of us wins and whichever one of us loses, we are wrong together. We lose together. We win together. And I think that's not advice, but maybe it is. I don't know.
Man, so what is your dad's name, Brett?
My dad's name is Ed. He's Ed Culp.
Ed, man, thank you for that, because So I hear you talk about that experience, and then for your father to be an advisor in your life to this day, that is such a cool thing, right? So I was fortunate enough to have that with my dad for the entirety of his life until he passed away, 17 years ago, right? And so now I look back and I appreciate men who have their fathers, who have men in their life who are telling them, hey, listen, baby boy, we gonna do this together, and that's so encouraging. And then it changes the way you lead yourself. It changes the way you lead others, and the type of family, the familiar environment that you have. So thank you for sharing that, Mr. Ed. Thank you. We appreciate that. Now, the final question I have for you, Brett Culp, today is: what do you want to be when you grow up?
Man, when I grow up, I want to be a person who can respond with love in any condition. No matter what the situation, I want to grow up to be a person who can respond with love. I haven't mastered that yet, Neil. There's a lot of circumstances in my life that trigger fear, that trigger stress or pressure or pain or bring up pain for me. And my first reaction is not love. My first reaction is self-protection, self-defense, denial, aggression, pride. And what I would love to do is to grow up to be a person that no matter what the circumstance, no matter what anybody else is doing, that I can respond immediately, without hesitation, with only love. And if I can master that, then I will have done it.
Tell you what, I've had some good answers before. I've had some great answers before, but I haven't had that answer before. And that one is one I think I have something new to aspire to when I grow up as well, sir. So thank you for that. Mr. Brett Culp, thank you for your time today. Thank you for the energy. Thank you for being who you are, for the authenticity, the transparency, but most importantly, thank you for just being a man amongst men. Thank you for showing us the way, for sharing your light with the world. It's a treat. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to implore you once again, follow all things Brett Culp. He's doing great work. He has a purpose. He has a mission, and he's sent out the invitation for all of us to not join his, but to find ours and to do the hard but necessary work. So thank you, Brett. And is there anything you want to leave with the audience before we get out of here today, sir?
Yeah, just that I hope our connection here doesn't end when this podcast episode ends.
Yeah.
I love connecting with people on social media. Visit I have a couple of different websites you can find if you start to connect with me, and the content is out there for you to enjoy, and I would love to make a new friend with you through any of the social media channels. And if I can support you in any way, I see every email that comes through our website. Even if somebody else is managing it, I see it at some point. It's directed to me. And if I can help and support you in some way, that is my heart to do, or at least direct you to the support you need. So do not hesitate. I love you. God loves you. How can I help you today?
Oh, see, listen, Brett, I thought you was about to steal my line, sir. You do know that every one of my episodes, every phone call, anything I do, I always end with the line that I love you, God loves you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Right? Every single
No, I didn't know that. Oh my goodness.
Every single episode, we end the same way. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's only right that we get an extra special dose of this today. So, I was like, is Brett catfishing me right now? Is he about to But how?
That's to end that way too.
How cool is it? And ladies and gentlemen, there are no mistakes. And so I tell everyone that my God has a lot of names. Not one of them is coincidence, right? And so there are some people that you come across. And hopefully today, ladies and gentlemen, Brett is one of those people that has made an impact on you, so much so that he will continue to make an impact. Connect with Brett. And so I'm going to leave you as I always do. And that is that we love you. God loves you. And there's nothing you can do about it. And until the next time we see you or you see us, don't be average, be world renowned. Peace.